Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Before I begin, don't forget to join my Discord server called Luke 10's Hangar. I plan on joining weekly, so if anybody wants to fly together, we can make that happen. My Discord server is linked down in the description below. Today I'll be flying out the MiG-21SMT. The MiG-21SMT was a late generation Soviet upgrade of the MiG-21 series developed at the height of the Cold War. It was produced in 1971 through 1972 and became known for its distinctive enlarged humpback spine that carried additional internal fuel. But this design choice also led to many of its operational problems. By the late 1960s, the Soviet Air Force was seeking a way to extend the range and combat effectiveness of the MiG-21. Earlier models, such as the MiG-21 PFM and the MiG-21S, were reliable, but hampered by limited fuel capacity. The most iconic feature of the SMT was the huge dorsal fuel spine. That increased internal fuel by around 300 liters, but that significantly altered the aircraft's aerodynamic center. Pilots often criticize this spine as it degraded handling, especially in maneuvering flight. The MiG-21 had a 23mm GSH-23L cannon. The MiG-21 SMT also had a Tumansky R-13 F300 engine. The SMT had a very short and somewhat troubled career in the Soviet Air Force. Pilots disliked the enlarged spine, citing reduced agility, poor over-the-shoulder visibility, and a shift in the aircraft balance during fuel consumption. Because of this, only about 281 MiG-21 SMTs were ever produced. Unlike many MiG-21 types, the SMT was not widely exported. A few late production airframes resembling the SMT configuration ended up in Middle Eastern air forces, but the actual SMT variant was mostly confined to the USSR. The SMT entered service during a period when the Soviet Union needed point defense interceptors with better endurance, NATO was deploying more advanced aircraft such as the F-4 Phantom II, and Soviet doctrine was shifting toward multi-role capability. The SMT was mostly withdrawn from the frontline units by the early 1980s. Even though the MiG-21 SMT didn't show major success, the SMT is important because it shows the Soviet attempt to push the MiG-21 airframe to its limits, it bridges the evolutionary gap between the mid-generation MiG-21 models and the ultimate MiG-21 bis, and it demonstrates how pilot feedback shaped Soviet fighter development. That's all for the history lesson. I hope you enjoy the combat. Now we're in the first game and I'm just trying to stay as fast and as low as I possibly can. I also like to fly on the outskirts so I don't go into the mess in the middle. I'm not saying you're not going to be finding people on the outskirts of the map, but if you go into the middle it's going to be a lot more chaotic. As I come back in towards the middle of the map, I see this hawk. I'm going to fire the missile at him there. And then as I'm looking around me, being aware of all my surroundings, I see this tornado up and to my right, so I'm going to try to fire a missile at him too. Unfortunately, my first missile doesn't hit the hawk, but then thankfully my second missile kills the tornado. I start to gain on this hawk. I'm going to fire the gun here. He's going to maneuver out of the way, and I'm not going to overshoot that because I know he's trying to make me overshoot. I probably could have fired at him again, maybe I would have killed him, but I just didn't want to risk it. I'm not going to get too greedy here. I know that I have two other allies behind me. I start to come back in towards this hawk again, but then thankfully my ally takes him out. Now I've got this A-10 in sight right in front of me, I'm going to go in towards him. Just remember, whenever you're fighting an A-10, please never go head on. It will never end well for you. If the A-10's able to get guns on you, you're pretty much dead. If you're the more powerful jet and you have the energy to just pull up and get away from him, just do that and boom and zoom him. It's just like in props, you need to know your strengths and weaknesses and your enemy's strengths and weaknesses. For example, I'm not going to turn fight a 0 in a Corsair, I'm going to boom and zoom a 0 in a Corsair. But other than that, I throw a missile at the A-10, that doesn't hit, but my bullets do hit, and he goes down. Last guy's an F5, but then thankfully he leaves the game, and then we win the game. And look at that, just a little bit of teamwork goes a long way. I had a lot of help from my squad mate James killing his ground targets in his F-105. Now we're in the second game, and I'm just going to do the same strategy once again. I'm going to fly on the outskirts, and then come back in towards the middle to hopefully get some kills. And speaking of getting some kills, I'm going to try to lock a missile on this F5, but unfortunately the sun's really being a nuisance here. That F5 is going to fully commit a head-on. I'm going to fire the gun here, hit him, and then I'm just going to break off. Now I know that F5's hurt pretty bad, I'm going to let my two allies go and finish him off. I'm able to get behind the same F5 about a minute later, and then I see this Vigan off my left. I'm definitely going to try to go for him. If I don't go for him, then he's just going to get in behind me and kill me. Thankfully, I've still got a couple rounds left. I'm going to use that on him, get the crit, and then I'm able to get the assist. Now I've got two A-10s behind me, but I'm not going to panic. I know I'm much faster than they are. I just have to really watch out for their missiles like this one coming in towards me. Now I know those are M9Ls, and they're not bad missiles, but I'm really starting to extend away, and if they start firing even more at me, I'm probably just going to be able to outrun them. If you fly a lot of props like me, I recommend you fly this plane like a 190, just don't climb. If you try to boom and zoom everybody in these fast planes, you're almost going to be unstoppable. But I'll say this again, you absolutely have to know your aircraft strengths and weaknesses and your enemy's strengths and weaknesses. If you do climb in this plane, it's not a terrible idea, I just don't want to die to a radar-guided missile. As I'm looking around me, being aware of all my surroundings, I see this F5 straight out in front of me. I'm going to go for him right now. Unfortunately, I don't have any cannon rounds, but I do have 2 R60s. I really don't want to overshoot this, so I'm going to pull my air brake, kill my power, and start to maneuver. All I have to do here is just stay behind him and try to get a little bit of distance here to fire my missile. I want to make sure that I'm not too close, but I also want to make sure that I'm not going to get too fast where I'm going to overshoot. Right now he's losing a lot of energy in these maneuvers, and that really works to my benefit. I'm going to try to get a lock on him here, fire the missile at him there. I get really scared that I'm going to kill my J7D by accident, but then thankfully I'm able to kill the F5 and we win the game. Thank you everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my video. If anybody has any suggestions on what aircraft I'm going to fly next, please leave it in the comments section down below and I'd be happy to fly that aircraft.